Good evening, model railroaders, and welcome back to the second section podcast where it's just regular folks talking about model railroading. I'm your host, Andy Dorish, and joining me this evening, shaking his head just in the nick of time, is Mike Ostertag. Mike, are you there?
Whatever,
he says. Oh,
whatever.
The Microsoft update gets you?
I don't know what the hell the problem is. I don't have any idea. It was, it's one of those things where, of course, I went and I got my hair cut, like this one and that one. And then, of course, I walk in the door at 6:45, and I'm like, okay, I got time. Yeah. Not a problem.
All day.
And, of course, I have 15 minutes to get on here. And the next thing you know, hey, can you do this quick? Can you do this quick? Hey, but I'm sitting here going, I have to get down on a computer. Like, okay, whatever. So yeah, it was cutting it close, but yeah. And then of course the computer didn't want to do what it is supposed to do. Nothing's
never
friendly.
does.
No,
never does.
But I'm here, and this is gonna be a fun show. This is gonna be a lot of fun.
So.
This is going to be a lot of fun. I have questions. I have many questions, especially since I've been there. I have a lot of questions.
You've cast eye upon the Fall River Division.
I've cast eye upon it. I've made suggestions at it. And on top of that, I've also been told I can't touch anything. So, I mean, that's...
Well, that must have been Michelle telling you that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Michelle goes, hey, when you go to John's house, don't touch anything unless he lets you.
So let's kick the microphone right over to John Parker. John, welcome to the Second Section podcast. Thank you for joining us this evening. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for letting me be on the show. I've been a big fan, and it's a real privilege to be here. So looking forward.
Well, the privilege is ours, buddy.
I think the privilege is all ours. Yeah, I agree with Mike. So you guys have tangled once before.
We did. Yeah, It was during the Rocky Mountain Train Show last year or year before.
Last year. Yeah.
Was it? Okay.
This last one. Yeah.
Okay.
It was really cool. It was really neat. The whole, we're going to get into the soups and nuts of the whole thing, but I haven't even operated on it, and I already know I have at least 2 favorite jobs on there. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. And one of them, when he told me about it, I'm sitting here going, oh, that's like fun. That sounds like a lot of fun. And we'll talk about it, but he's got this amazing intermodal facility that it's not like anything any model railroader has ever thought of or done ever with intermodal in the past. It's awesome.
Well, don't spoil it for us. I want to have John tell us a story about it. So, yeah, tease. We can certainly tease the audience this evening. So, John, I guess since you and Mike already have been acquainted, but a few people in the section crew out in the audience this evening may not know who you are or what your modeling interests are. Would you be so kind as to give just a little introduction as to what you do and what you model?
Sure. Yeah. So my name is John Parker. I model the BNSF Fall River Division. It's a modern proto-freelance layout. We'll talk about some of that. But I live in northern Colorado, just about 25 minutes from the Colorado Model Railroad Museum. So I'm fairly close to that, just north of Denver. So I've been in Colorado quite a while. This is my fourth large layout. So I've been a model railroader for forever. Yeah, ever since I can remember, I've been a model railroader and had layouts. So yeah. So. And I'm an old guy, so it's been a long time. So,
well, this last one you've put together, at least from what I've seen in social media and other areas out there, this one looks like a real dandy. So, can't wait to get into the content this evening. But so we should go over the show outline for this evening for the folks out in the audience. So we're going to obviously have John talk about his BNSF layout. But before that, we're going to have a segment. We're going to do our segment #NotSponsored. So John found something that he wants to share with the group. So we'll do that. And then we'll go through the talking points. And if we have enough time, we might even take a look at how the SSP group build's going, and bring up a couple of highlights and photos and talk about that. So, Mike, what do you think?
I think that sounds like a plan. We should get going.
I think we should get all right. Well, then we'll take our
I'm
first.
hyped up for tonight. I'm telling you, this is going to be so awesome. I can't.
Let's get going. All right, so let's kick it over. We'll kick it to the Greasy Meat Hands band here, and we will start out with #NotSponsored. Here we go. All right, that little ditty from the Greasy Meat Hands band indicates that it is time for #NotSponsored. It's we don't get paid to talk about these items on the show, but we sure do like them and hope that you guys in the audience like them too. So John came on the show this evening, says he's got one that he wants to share. So I'm gonna defer to you, John. You can take the lead tonight. What is your product that you want to share with everybody?
Well, I've been using this product for years on the layout, and I was working with it quite a bit today, and it's called EVA foam, ethylene vinyl acetate, and this stuff is. Try to hold it up here for you. This is just a sheet of it, and it's a real thin foam. They make it in 5 different thicknesses, but this is 1 millimeter thin. And it really represents asphalt texture just perfect.
Really?
Yeah, it's easy to paint, easy to put washes on to make that gray asphalt color. It holds to the foundation, whatever you're gluing it to, really well. It holds adhesives well. So if you want to put like road marking stickers on here, lines that are adhesive. I mean, I've had this stuff on my lab for 10 years, and I've had adhesive pinstriping on there to represent lines, and it's just held up perfectly. So it cuts easy. What I really like about this is it makes impressions. So if I want to, for example, butt this up to a rail and make a grade crossing, I can press it on top of the rail, makes an indentation, and I can turn it over and cut right along the line, and it makes a perfect template.
Oh.
And this stuff is just fantastic. So
that's awesome.
I love working with this stuff. Yeah. So it's called EVA foam, EVA foam, and you can buy it at craft stores or online, eBay. It's all over the place. But I like the 1 and the 2 millimeter thickness for roads. So I just love working with this stuff.
Does it take paint okay?
Yeah, it takes paint. It's kind of a foam, so the first coat kind of absorbs into the foam, but it takes additional coats. And I like to wash to mix, grays to make that worn asphalt look. So I use a lot of blacks and light charcoal blacks and different shades of gray. And I kind of wash it to give a pattern on there of a wear pattern, and it just holds the color perfectly.
Oh no,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so I love this for asphalt roads. Yeah, just perfect. Big fan.
That's great. I'm gonna have to try some of this stuff.
Yeah, and it just it cuts so nice. You put it down in just a single swipe with an X-Acto, and it's soft, and just the texture of asphalt, even after you paint it, is just right there. You really can't beat it.
Huh.
So anyway, EVA foam.
I'm gonna have to give that a whirl.
Yeah, I got it written down. That's definitely going to be something I'm going to be looking into.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yes, I put quite a bit down today, and I'll be doing some more this week. But I just love working with it.
Oh, there's a good question from the chat right here. Is right here for that?
I got it.
Texture fine. Oh, I got it. Did you?
Yeah, you got it too. We all got it.
Yeah. Is the texture fine enough for N scale?
I think so. Yep, I would use the 1 millimeter for for N scale, maybe a 2mm for HO. But it's fantastic.
That's really cool.
You can't see the texture here, of course, because it's so fine. But yeah, and it's very inexpensive, so can't hurt to try it.
Yeah, they have it at Michael's from
Probably.
Paul Scott August here.
Yeah, it's a crafting foam. I think a lot of crafters use it for different things.
Well, I'm gonna have to go pick it up. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's very cool. What else do you got in your bag full of tricks tonight, John? Or is that it?
That's it for the hashtag not sponsored. But
okay, I do have one that I've neglected to talk about for a while now, and I want to Mike, unless you have one.
No, I was
Okay,
just going to give a shout out to that's it.
Okay. So I got one that I want to bring up here. And so Moloko has been doing cars, I'm doing some high detailed cars for a while now. And the BNSF, their latest non-waffle cars that they brought out, these double door, these are really good looking. Really good looking cars, 50-foot high cubes. And you can see from some of the pictures here, how they were loaded up for paper. So basically, from the 1970s on, if I think they even made it into the modern era, if I'm not mistaken. But these are just absolutely gorgeous cars from Moloko. And I think I might have to get a couple. It's not like I don't have enough boxcars already. I mean, I have hundreds probably, but these are really good.
Well, like Ray says, though, can you ever really have enough 50-foot high cube boxcars?
Yeah, and then they also have them in the waffle as well, which is really, really cool. So I don't know. I think Ray's right. I think you can't have enough.
Yeah, that's pretty that's a pretty cool looking car.
Yeah. Yes, they are. So, all right, Mike, you have a shout out tonight for hashtag
and we've talked about it. We've joked about things and everything else like that. And I know it actually does pertain to John's layout and stuff like that. I just wanted to say a big shout out to Greg McComas over at Macrail. This guy has been absolutely, I don't know if he sleeps or what he's been doing, but he's got some pretty cool new stuff coming down the pipe. Him and I talked here not too long ago, and he's, for those that are interested, I don't know, John, if you've got any of these yet, but the flashing rear end devices that Macrail's producing. Those are one of his newer things that he's got coming out, and from everything I've been told, they're awesome. So
yeah, I don't have one. I tell you, I took one of his existing EOTs and I put an LED in it and flashed it, and I think that might have given him the idea. That was probably 2 years ago, but anything Greg does is going to turn out fantastic. So I'm eager to see his final product.
Yeah, and you can head over to Macrail. I think it's macrail.com, and they've got
I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, and he's got a bunch of other stuff in the hopper that we can't really talk about teasing. We can't really talk about yet because nothing's finalized. But he's got some really, really cool stuff coming up. And if you're a modern day or close to a modern day modeler, is definitely somebody you got to check out, because he's got all your modern day detailing needs for the most part. Those are cool. The derails or the wheel chocks. Those are really, really neat. So
yeah, this is function and fashion all in one combo here.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that was just what I wanted to say. Head over to Macrail, and he's got some really, really cool cool stuff. I believe he's got some PTC antennas and things like that. Also available. I know he's got the stuff for the tops of the locomotives, but I'm not sure if he's got the antennas themselves now. John, do you know? Does he have the antennas themselves?
Yeah, he's got a variety of antennas.
Yeah.
All kinds of PTC antennas. Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, very, very cool. And to boot, he's a good guy. So, and the derail right there, the operating derail, that I believe is from Scotty Models. Is that
Yep.
Scott Thornton's? That's Scott Thornton's.
Scotty's model
design.
shop.
You got Scotty's model shop. Yep. So, yeah. So if you need an operating derail, there's one right there. Head over to Mackerel and pick one up. # not sponsored. There you go.
Yeah, we'll have to see if we can get Greg back on the show to talk about his new wares. I think there'd be a lot of people curious about not only the Michigan Interstate again, diving deeper into that, but some of the other cool things that he has.
Yeah, we're not talking Michigan Interstate.
Sure.
We're not going to talk about Michigan Interstate. I draw the line at Mackerel. Okay, I'll support them there.
All right.
We're not going to talk about Michigan. We're not going to talk about Michigan Interstate right now. Not yet.
All right. Okay. Well, that was
cool layout, though.
Is it?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. I've seen it on the internet. I've never actually.
That's all I've seen. It is on the internet. I'm afraid to show up in person.
Yeah, I've been there, and it's much better in person. Believe me.
Is it?
Beautiful.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So I think that's gonna wrap up # not sponsored for us this evening. So that means we're gonna cast ourselves right into the main event. And I believe John's got some content prepared for us this evening to talk about layout design, if I'm not mistaken.
I do. I'm going to bring up some charts.
Ooh, charts.
I just lost my window here.
I
lost my StreamYard window. Not sure what happened to it.
Oh, no.
Okay, let's try it. Okay, so I'll bring up some charts and I'll share the screen. How's that?
Yeah.
That was weird. Okay.
All right, we'll just give it a second here. Here we go. All right. There we are. So it looks like we got a presentation up here, John.
Right.
And let's see. I think we got it on screen.
Okay, I've got full screen here. It doesn't show. Try it again.
See here. So if you do from the beginning, and then there should be
doing a slideshow from the beginning.
Yeah, I think down in that right-hand corner, where it's next to the zoom slider on the left-hand side, there's like a full screen dealie there. Yep, I see. Yep, we see it. Okay, we'll bring John up to the top, so that way everyone can see him. Well,
hey, look at I'm wearing BNSF colors. I didn't even
do
that on purpose. That wasn't even on purpose. No.
All right. Otherwise, I think F5 is the key that'll bring up the whole thing.
I see it on my monitor, the full screen.
Oh, do you? Oh, this is okay. I know what's going on here. So I think we just got to do the switch. Let's see. If you do a right click on it, I think PowerPoint's going to give you the option to flip displays. If I'm correct on that, back in my day.
No.
Oh, sad day. Okay.
Should we go to present and then window?
That's what he did.
I did that, yeah.
Oh.
So we'll have people bear with us here for just a hot second while we get the
Want me to stop sharing and try again? Start again?
Yeah. Let's do that. We'll do a little stop share, cue to the Jeopardy theme. That's right. But yeah, we'll stop the share because it might have been one of them weird deals when your screen went away.
It could be.
Yeah.
Okay, share screen.
There we go.
Window.
Here we are. Okay. So we got the other guy back here with the thumbnail layout.
Yeah, I've got the full screen here. I'm not sure what's going on.
Okay. Otherwise, if you want, you can email it to me and I can maybe do the old whirly gig. And then we'll play a little theme music here. So we can see the pieces there. Let's see.
So you got that in the bottom right-hand corner where it says, in the bottom right-hand corner where it's like full, like one of those tabs on to the left of the percentage slide. One of those one of those is like a book view or something like that.
Slideshow.
What are the other options there?
102%.
Okay. Well, what do we got there? So it says the monitor selection is in the top bar. Okay, so we're getting some help from the section crew here. It says change the monitor at the top off of auto. So there's a monitor up at the top. Does it say off auto? It's the button next to the.
It says off. Off. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Oh man. It's the monitor section is on the top bar, so we can see it on the screen. It's just the PowerPoint view is in the middle. It's directly under the search. Okay. Let's see. Let's follow Adam Cruz here. It's directly under search. And so I'm going to guess that's the search bar, and it's in the top ribbon. And what we're looking for here is change the monitor at the top.
Okay, change that to primary monitor.
Okay. Let's see if this works now.
No, my monitor is primary and automatic.
Huh. Those are the two. Yeah, he said to turn it to primary.
Okay.
Let's see if that works, and then click the slideshow from the beginning.
Okay, I'm in primary and I'm in slideshow.
And it's on your big screen, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's all right. We could still work with this. Let's see. I think what we can do is maybe if I make this big.
Must be something in the sharing.
What do you do, Mike, when we do the piece here?
Okay,
when
so
we
what I do is
line...
down on the bottom right-hand corner, down by the percentage slide, there's one of those three tabs down there. Is the one right, that one right, the next one over to the left. No, the one to the left of that is the one that I usually use, if I remember right. It's like book view or something like that, or something along those lines. It's
reading view.
There we go.
Reading view. There you have it. There you have it. No, the only thing is with that is you can't see us and stuff like that. That's the only thing.
Okay.
But you have it up. But we can see the whole thing now. It's right.
Okay.
Hey, this was a learning adventure for me too. So now I know what to
Yeah,
do for work when I get
I've never had
stuck.
to do that before. Okay.
Make a note. Yes, I will, Steve. All right, John. Well, why don't we
Okay.
go ahead and kick it over to you now?
Yeah, let's get into it. So this is the BNSF Fall River Division. I'm just going to talk about primary layout design, layout construction, and touch on some of the highlights of operation that I think people would be interested in as it relates to the layout. So a quick overview of the layout. This is a modern prototype freelance model railroad, and that's my choice. There's always a spectrum of strictly prototype and total freelance. I'm in the middle somewhere. The equipment, the operations are all free prototype. The locations are freelance. So, and part of the reason I did that is I wanted to have that flexibility. And this ET44 in the lower right hand corner is a good example of that. There's a story behind this. My friend and I were at Lombard Hobbies, and when scale trains came out with these, we both decided to get one. He's an N scaler, so he bought the N scale. I bought the HO, and we decided to paint them or customize them to be a Smurf, a modern Smurf. I'm not sure if you're familiar with BNSF. Had some GP38s, and they got from EMD, and they just simply slapped the logo on there, and they called them Smurfs. They kept their blue paint. So we decided to do that with our ET44s from scale trains, and I like to have that on layout occasionally. So. And I'm able to do that by having a freelance, have somewhat of a freelance operation. So, yeah, so that's my preference. Have that flexibility and be able to have some creativity. So it was designed for and built for operations, and I'm going to talk about designing it for people first. The construction started in 2008. So it's getting old. Layout's getting up there in age, 16, 17 years old. So it's not showing any wear and tear yet, but I'm waiting for that to happen. But it's got some age on it. So it's a modern, uses a modern custom CTC controlled system software, full CTC detection, signals, everything, the whole works. So that was custom built by a friend of mine, the software in this system. There's branch lines we interchange with the UP, the Iowa Interstate, the Montana Rail Link, and UPS trackage rights over a portion of the layout. And it's a multi-level layout, meaning there's more than one level. I am using what's called the mushroom construction. We'll get into some of that. But the design goals with that multi-level layout were to maximize the mainline length for operations, increase the distance between locations and towns, provide for long mainline runs and switching. I wanted the best of both worlds. And I wanted to create that feeling of the operators being isolated and by themselves when they're out working. So especially when on the road, just like on the prototype, you're out there by yourself or maybe with your crew or your crew member, 2 or 3 crew members, whatever you have, and you're not sure what's coming around the corner or where the other crews are, where the trains are. You can't hear anybody. You can't see anybody. And I think that just contributes to that prototype feeling of operating on the railroad. So those are my primary goals in the design.
John, approximately where is the Fall River Division located?
It's approximately the Midwest up through the Pacific Northwest. So the West End staging is Tacoma and Seattle, and the East End staging is Lincoln and Burlington. So it kind of gives you the Midwest up north to the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, so I've got a lot of different scenery techniques and scenery types, if you will, because I wanted to be able to model and do not just stick with mountain scenery or prairie scenery. I wanted to do a little bit of everything: Midwest, mountains, Wyoming, Montana, the whole works. So that's another reason I chose freelance, is to be able to do all that, not get stuck to one particular geographic area.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay, and here's some data, the data points. The layout and the crew lounge in my shop are in a 3,000 square foot area of the house, basement.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a big space. So we've got a lot of freight cars, a lot of locomotives, big long main line. That was the goal. Daytime fluorescent lighting. At the time I built the layout, LEDs were just coming on and they were so expensive and they just weren't practical at the time. But I did switch over to night LEDs. So when we have night sessions, it's all blue LEDs that provide that night effect. Even though the operators still need a lantern, the blue LEDs just give it some effect.
That's cool.
48 and 58 inch track height, and we'll talk about that. Lots of DCC boosters, circuit breakers,
Wow.
all over the layout. So we've got lots of power. And one of the things we've recently done is increase the wireless access. I'm finding that more and more operators are bringing their own Wi-Fi throttles. And I've increased the wireless access points to the layout so that, people can use their own throttles here. People feel comfortable, I think, using their own throttles as opposed to using one of mine, and I'm all for that. So, and we're up to about 148 or 49 operating sessions.
Oh my gosh!
So far, yeah.
Man.
So we try to operate as much as we can.
Do you find, John? Do you find that having such a, like with the Wi-Fi or Y throttle stuff, are there relatively few issues with that, or have you found where some are just preferred over others, or cell phones like the main go-to now, or
no? What I'm seeing is people come and operate, and it's my own crew. It's people from out of town. People are starting to bring their own throttles with them. I bring my own throttle when I go operate somewhere else because you know that throttle well. You're comfortable with it. You know how it works. And it's almost second nature. So I'm finding that a lot of operators are buying the TCS or the ESU throttles, and they've really been problem-free. The issue, in my concern, and we had this happen once last year, is that it's got to be programmed properly so that when you hit the emergency stop, you're just stopping your train and you're not shutting the whole layout down. So we had that happen, unfortunately. So that's something I cover in the briefing is if you got your own throttle, make sure it's programmed properly to shut down just the train you're running and not everybody's train.
I heard the story around the layout on your interview with Ray. That was it was actually a pretty good story.
Yeah.
So my son's 8 years old, and we take him we have a club layout here in Ripon, and we had probably 12 operators on it at one time, and it's they're using Digitrax, and so he's got his throttle, and of course he goes and you can shut the layout power off right from the throttle. And if you wanted to see 11 confused people just wandering around like, what happened? Why is the layout off? Oh, that's a fast way to do it. Oh man.
Yeah. And the host is wondering. Well, host is running around and wondering what happened. Trying to troubleshoot it. Yeah. So anyway, I see that trend continuing. More and more people are just going to own their own throttle and bring it with them as they go and operate. So I think layout owners would be wise to install wireless access points for that reason. So, just my opinion. Yeah.
So we have a couple questions from the audience I wanted to grab. So Mark Wines is asking, so like, what's the length and width of the room? Is it like a rectangle type deal? I mean, 3,000 square feet. That's pretty massive.
My house is like a 63 by 63 foot square with the cutout for the garage, which is about 700 square feet. So
sure,
it's a square. I've got a layout plan, a layout I'll show that'll give you a better idea of how it's kind of laid out in the basement. So
okay,
but it's a big square for the most part. Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay. And I can't take credit for all of this. I've had a lot of good friends help out, especially early on. Yeah, this is a helix build on the right. And so we had a lot of fun the first couple of years. These guys helped with the bench work, pulling wire. They didn't do anything that would affect the quality or safety. I made sure that was all my responsibility. So, but they put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and I thank them all for their contributions. That's for sure. So, okay, let's talk about the design of the layout. I'm going to talk about my approach and some of my concepts, and these are at a very high level. And I'm talking about these now because you'll see examples as we go through, through the presentation here. So I started the design process when I was building the home, and here's a shot on the right here of the basement and the foundation. And I was out there every day making sure that I knew exactly where every drain pipe was going to be. I needed to know, for example, where the columns were. And if you take a look at this picture, if you can see my mouse or not, but
yeah,
there's columns that support those I-beams that go in. I needed to know where every window was, everything so I could establish a really good footprint, which was the foundation for the design. And I got to know the foreman really well, and figured out what kind of adult beverage he preferred. I bought him a lot of it, and he did a lot of favors. He did a lot of favors for me that helped with the layout design. So I'm grateful for him for helping out, and that's what a 63 by 63 foot square. It's even bigger than what's in the picture, but that's what it looks like. So
wow.
So I put the footprint, the final footprint, into a Third Planet software, and then I printed like 200 copies. That wasn't going to change, right? The foundation and the layout wasn't going to change, so I made like 200 paper copies. And after that, I just took a pencil and paper and doodled with those for quite a while, just to get an idea of how this whole thing was going to be laid out. And I only focused on the aisles and the benchwork dimensions. Because that was, and this was a mushroom, so it was kind of hard to conceptualize, and it's even harder to communicate with people about how the mushroom works. But the planet took a lot of pencil and paper, and each one of those 200 sheets that I printed out with that footprint on there. And I eventually outlined it on the floor with masking tape, just to validate that it measured the same as my CAD drawings. And luckily, I ended up with about a foot extra in each direction. So it really worked out very well in terms of figuring out where I'm going to have the aisles and the benchwork and in the actual diagram. So I didn't focus on track planning at this point because I knew, for example, where I wanted to have a yard or 2 yards where staging would be. And I knew what the width of that benchwork was going to be, where I needed it. But I wasn't going to get into, number 5, number 6, number 8 switches at this point. I just wanted a layout. And I had a lot of folks, friends, strangers review the plans. And even if 1 out of 100 ideas was implemented, it was still worth it. So I got a lot of great ideas, some of them not so great. But even if I cherry picked a few of those ideas, it was still worth it because I just didn't think of everything. So.
I'm sorry, John, but were there any ideas that you had where you thought took pieces of ideas and made your own idea out of it, like your own concept out of it, where like, the overall concept of what they're saying doesn't work, but this might, or this part might, and then something else, and you piece things together? Did you have a lot of that while you were designing the layout?
I had a lot of that. I had a lot of, I visited a lot of layouts as well. And I visited a couple of mushroom layouts, so that helped as well to conceptualize what I'm trying to do here. So I took each idea, evaluated it, and I put it on paper and pencil. And if it meant restricting some of the benchwork another 8 or 10 inches, maybe not so much. It just depended on what was suggested. But I reviewed each suggestion, thinking I got to at least look at it and try it.
Yeah.
So, and was I confident? Absolutely not. At some point you gotta draw a line in the sand and say, hey, here's what I'm going to do. I've got to go forward, right, and start hammering nails and cutting lumber, right. So at that point, when I knew that fit based on the CAD drawing, I felt comfortable with starting construction. And that happened in 2008 probably. Because there were some other things I did before I started the layout. I built the crew lounge, my shop, and dispatcher's office, things like that. So anyway.
So you got the creature comforts in first, and then you started the layout.
Yeah, and let's talk about that, the concepts of the construction. So here's a shot on the upper right-hand corner where I'm building the crew lounge out. So that's what's behind those studs. And this is just part of the basement. It wraps around behind there. And anyway, so I started with the The flooring, I sealed the cement floor there. Electrical up in the joist, because I installed a sub panel box as well. Ran electrical out to where I was going to have all of my, I'm calling nodes, where my boosters and electronics are. I've got 7 nodes around the layout that all have electrical outlets and switches and so forth. So that was put in. The crew lounge was put in. My shop, utility room, utilities, that was all done initially before I actually started building bench work. And when I did start to build the bench work, I took a top-down approach. So we had the electrical in, the HVAC, the lighting, and you'll see some of this as we go through the pictures and upcoming charts. But I took that top-down approach in construction because I didn't want to have to go in after the fact and work above, bench work and things to get in the way.
Yeah,
that was a good approach. It worked out really well. So
I can speak from experience. I've made that mistake.
Yeah,
and I'm
I
paying
have too.
for it.
I think all of us have.
I made it on previous layouts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it took a little bit more time to do that, but it was, in the long run, it was more efficient. So next came bench work and flooring, main tracks. We put in DCC, signal dispatch systems, and then we tested, operated the layout, and got feedback, lots of feedback. So when I say test and operate, I'm talking not even beta sessions, but alpha sessions. Hey, was there track power? Do the engines and the DCC system even work? And so it was more playing trains to test things out than even having a beta operating session. So and I had lots of feedback. Andy, you and I were talking before the show about feedback. Yep. That was so critical. And even today, one of the requirements when people come over, I ask them, the only requirement I have for people that are operating here is to provide me feedback. That's only to make the layout better for the next operation, the next person, the next experience. So I love feedback. I've even done some random feedback. I've done some anonymous feedback. I've done some survey monkeys, all kinds of feedback. I love feedback.
Really?
And again, I've taken a lot of suggestions, and some of them I've just thrown out the door, but at least I've got them. And even one suggestion is worth every 100. So it's I love to get feedback. And then as we progress, I'm continually refining, yard and industry plans until I build it out. And say, for example, on the right here, on this bottom photo on the right, that's a mock-up. So we had a lot of mock-up.
That's a mock-up, Andy.
That's a mock-up. Yeah. So we had a lot of foam.
Nice mock-up.
Yeah.
We had a lot of mock-ups to help us, to help the operators kind of visualize and understand how the industry is going to work and how it works out, the spots, the pulls, and so forth. And they give me feedback, because now is the time to change any track arrangement, ideas that I might have for the final structure. Again, feedback is critical. So we operated the heck out of the thing, and we continue to do that until I build the final scene. It's a continuous process to get feedback. And now I'm at the stage where I work on individual products. I take either an industry or an 8 or 10 foot section of layout and work on it as an individual products. And over time, those projects certainly add up and contribute to the layout. So I would say the layout's probably about 80% finished right now.
Oh, wow.
Do you do that to completion, John, first, or do you just start that process like you see the mock up there and then go through the feedback process with all of that and go back through the design and the research and design portions of doing it? And then, so once you have these mock-ups built and a basic plan set, that's not necessarily set in stone right then and there, right? I mean,
that's right.
It could change. And
Yeah.
Could you walk through that little part of it? Because a lot of times I think what happens with modelers is, and we've all done it, is you get to a certain point. I know I'm certainly guilty of this. You get to a certain point where, okay, I'm going to put this industry in here, and that's basically where that part of the layout dies. Yeah. Because you never get beyond, this is going to be this industry, because every time you turn around, you're making a change.
Right.
So
yeah, let me give you an example of that. So this paper mill on the right here, in the lower right-hand photo, the right side, that's a paper mill, and that's been a mock-up for years. Okay, and my project today that I'm working on is that is that model.
Hmm.
So over the years, I've gotten a lot of feedback on this. Hey, we need a wood chip pile, right? Okay, you got to fit that in somewhere. You should have covered where the tanks unload. You should be covered. You got to have a lot of piping. So I'm taking all that into consideration when I design the new paper mill, the permanent model that I'm building, and that's right here.
Oh,
This is a replacement of that mock-up with all the suggestions that I've had, the feedback, and so you can see the.
Wait a minute, was that there when I was there?
No.
So I was there with the mock-up, right?
Yes, you were there with the mock-up.
Oh my good Lord, John.
Look at this.
Yeah, this industry has only been there for 6 weeks, so I'm working on it. Just about half done, but I'll finish this hopefully within the next couple weeks.
Wow,
so this is clear water paper. Yeah.
So I have a question then to go back to your process a little bit. So do you glue your tracks down while the mock-up's in place, or do you just kind of let it float and work things out over the course of years?
Yeah, both. I've put I've used glue. Typically, I've used glue and I've used thumbtacks. Most of it's glued down, but it's not a problem for me to take up track and relay it, especially if it's going to make an improvement, right? So this track initially, when it was a mock-up, was glued down, but I did move some of it. And I've done that for all my industries that I've gone back and modeled after the mock-up because I've had input. So I've either input from operators or I've done additional research over the years to understand how the industry works, what the commodities are, what's being shipped, all that stuff. So during those years when I've got a mock-up, I'm researching, I'm getting feedback so that when the time comes, I've got a better understanding and I'll build a better model.
What's the length of that area? I'm just going to call it an area because that's...
Yeah.
I mean, there's I could see 5 different scenes inside this mill area,
Yeah, so this whole mill is about 10 feet long.
Jesus God, dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
So...
That's beautiful. I love it.
That is absolutely awesome. That is really, really cool.
Anyway, so that's a project that I'm working on now. And when this is finished, I'll tackle another 8-10 feet of layout. My next project is going to be some scenery, and we'll talk about negative space. But so that's my next project. Right after this is some more negative space.
Wow.
So. Yeah.
So
anyway,
Look
at Tom Klomoski.
Tom Klomoski's got a comment.
Yeah, switchbacks are pretty cool too. I mean, that's kind of neat.
Says paper mills are just cool, and they are.
They are cool.
Yeah,
they're very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm all for big industries. So.
Me too.
Okay. The mushroom. So the Fall River Division is a multi-level mushroom layout. And the best way to think about mushroom is it's a single level along the perimeter room. And this is a good cutaway example. And the peninsulas themselves are double level, 2 levels, but they face opposite directions. And for that upper, where it says Roseburg Yard, that upper level, you've got to have a floor to get up there and see it because it's elevated. So I have a 16-inch raised floor here. That's the whole concept, and it's very difficult to comprehend. I had a terrible time helping my crew understand what we were building here. What the concept was, and for a lot of them it didn't make any sense. But they just did what they were told, and we watched videos, we looked at articles, we did everything, and it was very difficult to conceptualize. But eventually they figured it out, and it's even difficult to explain sometimes. So.
This cross section really helps.
Yeah, so the cutaway helps. And then really what's critical for a mushroom is high ceilings and hidden utilities. So going back to the picture of our foundation, if you see this OSB on the lower right-hand corner, I had the builder add another 14 inches to the height. So I had headroom.
So I'm guessing that's a poured wall?
Yeah, it's poured.
So that's an extra 14 inches of concrete all the way around.
No, yeah, generally. So the I-beams are higher, the posts were higher, everything was higher, so that I could get that elevation, that headroom. So that's critical. High ceilings and hidden utilities. So I'll show you some of the hidden utilities up in the joists.
I suppose if it was a standard, what's a standard house basement in Colorado? What is standard? 9 foot?
8.5 foot.
Yeah. 8.5. I suppose the whole theory and concept behind the layout wouldn't work without that extension, right?
It would. It'd just be more difficult.
Okay.
So I don't want anybody having to duck their head or to have a close call. And it's more comfortable not having to do that.
Yeah.
So.
I wish I didn't have that problem.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about mushroom construction. So it's typical. I use typical L girder construction. You can kind of see some of that. The raised floor is 16 inches, and it really provides a shadow box appearance, and I'll show you some pictures of that. The track height off the floor you're standing on is 46 to 48 inches, and 58 when you're standing on that raised floor. So that's just my preference on the track height. It worked out perfect. The deck separations are 17, 18, 19 inches, generally speaking. And the great thing about the mushroom is it's always truly directional. So when you're going from one level to the other, and your train is moving forward, continues to move forward, the layout changes direction, the train doesn't. So if I'm looking at the layout, this layout is built so that I'm always looking north, just like you're looking at a map. West is to my left, east is to the right. So when I'm on the lower level in this picture, and my train goes up the helix and it goes to the top level, I'm turning around. So my layout is still going west if it's going to my left. So that's a big advantage of the mushroom, in my opinion. So everywhere on the layout, everywhere, it's truly you're looking north, or you're just like you're reading a map. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's a really good thing to kind of build in place. So that was intentional.
It was intentional, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been to a lot of layouts where you're up on the second level, now you're changed directions, you're going east instead of west, and it's hard to remember that. And so this is a real big benefit. So again, traditional L girder.
Wow.
Here's a shot of the raised floor. So this is 16 inches off the ground. 2x4 OSB construction. And in this photo, you can also see where the lights and the electrical are done. You can see the utilities tucked in up in the joists. See that in the upper right-hand corner? The lighting balances are being built because the lighting is in place. So that's also in the upper right-hand corner. The bench work is right below that balance. You just cantilevered off the wall, that particular section. So just raised floor and construction photos.
So the joists for the raised floor, those are just 2x4?
Yes.
On edge, no problems there?
No. Nope. And here's a before and after shot. This is looking from the same vantage point. So here's the bench work on the left, and here's a layout on the right. So you can see in the lower left-hand corner of the left photo where the helix is, and the helix on the left. If I can get my pointer working here, but it's not going to work. Okay.
Hey, your pointer's on the screen, John.
Is it? Okay, the mouse is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So here's a, this is the helix. This is when I get from the lower level, I go up the helix to the upper level. And here is the same helix. I'm going up, and I'm up on the upper level, but you can't see it. But it's right up here.
Wow.
So this balance is actually the backdrop for this upper section.
I'll be darned.
And this is along a perimeter wall, so there's only one level.
Oh.
Okay. Are you getting it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Yep. I get it. I suppose if that's a perimeter wall and you had a second level on there, it would actually flip directions on, right? It wouldn't stay true to the directional portion of the layout.
That's correct. Plus you couldn't get to it. Yeah, you couldn't get to that second level unless you put it directly above, up here.
Yeah.
So this is along the foundation wall. This is the main yard. So this is a single level, but on the left side, this is a double level. So then
the
again,
traffic. Oh, go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
It's really hard to see this.
Yeah.
So okay, let's talk about planning for people first, not track. I'm not sure if you know who Byron Henderson is. He's a prolific layout designer, but he talks about layout design ideas from a casino. I'm going to read this because it's important. Influencing the movement of visitors and controlling where visitors look are key elements of casino design. We can borrow a couple of those ideas. Personally, I've spent a lot of time in casinos. I know exactly what he's talking about. So it worked out well.
Guilty as charged.
Right. So my primary design objectives were to direct and focus on the action, right, into the layout, create an attractive, comfortable space, just like a casino does, guide operators and visitors, wayfinding. When you're in a casino, you just look up and there's a sign that tells you which way to the blackjack tables, which way to the bathroom, right? And I want you to be caught in the action, and I want it to be difficult to find an exit, just like a casino. It's like a maze in this layout. So those are the primary design objectives I took away from this. And let's talk about facilitating people movement, aisle width. My aisles are wider at yards and stationary operating positions. So here's a good example. This is the main yard on the right. And again, this is that same shot we were looking at with the yard on the right, single level. On the left is the mushroom, right? So I've got a lower level, a helix, and I'm going up to the upper levels up here, looking in the aisles to the left. So this is where this area is 48 inches, this width right here. And the reason is this is where a lot of people hang out, right? You got yard crews working, you got people picking up the trains, you got people operating trains on the left side of this picture. So where I have higher concentration of people, 48 inches, otherwise it's 36 aisle width.
So quick question here,
Sure.
before we move on to the next bullet point here. So I see that the floor is black.
It's carpet, black carpet.
It's black carpet. And do I spy like pads there for operators to stand?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Sure.
I'm part of the design is to define the operator space. So there's 4 people that work in this yard. I got 2 people that classify. I got a hostler and a yard master. So where I have a stationary position like that, where you're not going to move much, I put these pads that you're talking about, Andy, and they certainly do provide more comfort on your feet. But what's also is important is they define the space.
Give you a boundary.
This is where I stand. Yeah. So people passing subconsciously, I think, was what happens is that they don't enter that space because it's somewhat defined, right? And the operators do the same. So if I've got a guy working on the west end of the yard, he's generally standing where that pad is. The person on the right is standing on this pad. And then what you can't see is the hostler. He's got he's got a pad, and so does the yard master. So it's kind of defining the space. You'll also notice that this little jug out of the yard, this used to be just one linear straight piece. And I added about 5 inches. And I added this. I got an extra track in the yard because of that, but it also says, hey, there's a divider between this operator and this operator. This is kind of where the yard is cut in half. So don't come over into my space. And the other person kind of gets that same message. The layout's divided. I'm classifying and working the east end. The other guy's working in the west end. And let's not cross paths. Let's use this as a divider. Subconscious, right? So that's why I put that little bump out. It's about a 5-inch bump out to help define the operator space and to also add an extra track.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So that's what the whole idea behind that was. So I really like to define the operator space to help.
Isn't it funny? Like you see that all the, like, you go when you go to an operating session, the wandering crew members.
Right.
And I mean, there'll be times, I'm guilty of it. All of a sudden I'll be floating, my train's rolling, and I'm standing next to Mike talking about, how do you do in bowling last week? And yeah, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea. Getting a lot of comments from the group here saying that's a really good idea.
Okay, good. Yeah, there's not a lot of
649, by the way.
There's not a lot of socializing here. These guys everybody's really busy. So
yeah,
if you want to socialize, go hang out in the crew lounge, and I'll talk about how that crew call works. But if you want to hang out and talk, go hang out in the crew lounge. If you want to get off your feet, if you want to socialize, go have a drink, whatever, hang out in the crew lounge, not on the layout.
The crew lounge is really cool.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's nice. You could live in that thing.
So talk about people movement again, the use of inside and outside corners. So this is, again, near the main yard, and you notice the radius of the fascia. And I use a radius and the fascia where people are walking and moving to kind of help with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to be working in an area like this on the left, that's where the operator is. So the operator's got a shelf. It's got a little indentation, gives him his own space. People don't get so close. Kind of defines that operator space. Here's that mat on the floor. And here's the hostler's mat on the right-hand photo. This is the engine facility where the hostler works. He's got his own mat, and he's got his own inside corners to give him some more space to work.
I need to be taken.
That's another great idea. Jeez.
Oh my goodness. I got to write some of these ideas down.
I could just send you this if you want, Andy.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So that's all part of the design, is how people are moving, right? Facilitate that, make it easy, make it intuitive. So that really helps. Here's a couple of overall shots of the layout. So this is coming down the stairs into the layout room. My shop is to the left. This is the crew lounge in here, and this is where I'm actually sitting right now. The reason I put this photo in terms of the design was this panel of toggle switches. This controls the whole layout. So I've got a sub panel. Every circuit has its own switch on it. These white switches are for the daylights. These are for the night lights. The two red are for the DCC system. And there's two other circuits with outlets all over the basement just for, the vacuum cleaner and tools.
Power. Yeah.
Just general utility stuff.
Right. So everything's got its own circuit, dedicated sub panel. So when I walk out of the layout room, I just hit these switches. They got lights on them, so I know that they're all off. And I know everything's powered down. So that was critical to the design, was to put everything in one central location in terms of power.
Wow. It's another idea I'm going to steal.
Another shot of the yard. I don't know what I was trying to just show the balance here. I'm going to talk about this helix in a minute, but we've got carpet. This curtain is actually landscape fabric.
Okay. Like weed barrier?
Yeah, I started using landscape fabric with the intention of replacing it with cloth material. And I did that, and I was unhappy with the cloth. I felt that the landscape material actually worked better than the cloth did. So, and it's easy to get access under here. I'd use clothespins underneath the fascia to clip it up. I can pull it down real quick, put it right back up real quick when I need to. I can replace it easily. It's very inexpensive. So I'm a big fan of the landscape fabric. Now, there's several types of landscape fabric. So you've got to get the right. I have a preference when it comes to the type of fabric, the design on the fabric. Some are made with chemicals that have an odor. This is an odorless, and it's truly odorless, unlike mineral spirits. So this is really odorless landscape fabric. It's the right height. to fit perfectly, clip underneath the fascia, and just give me about an inch off the floor. So I'm a big fan of the landscape fabric and carpet. So again, it's all about the comfort level in the layout room, right?
Yeah,
we spend
right.
a lot of time. We spend a lot of time down here. We might as well make it comfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
This is an area called Kimber, and here's another cutout where this person sits. There's a job here, and again another mat. There's a job here. This person does some classification work, works the industries, works with trains dropping off and adding cars to freights that pass through, that kind of thing. So got his own little work area here out of the main aisle space. And so again, this is an area that gets a lot of operators. We've got a helper set here that goes up the grade, pushers up the grade. So sometimes you'll have a helper crew here. You'll have a yard guy. You'll have a crew waiting for the yard to get his work done. So a couple of trains terminate and originate here. So you've got crews waiting to get on and off their train. So this can be a busy area, but the operator here has got his own space.
Yeah.
And this is a shot of, this is the back part of the layout. This is a back wall along the foundation, but I've decided to add a second level underneath here. We'll talk about that further, but it's the mushroom on the perimeter wall doesn't always necessarily mean it has to be a single level. And this is actually a grade going up. You can see the lower track here on the left. So we're going from the lower level of the mushroom to the upper with a consistent visual grade. It's about a 1.7% ruling grade on the layout. So we're starting and we're grading up, going up the grade, and it goes even up here. This is not the top of the grade, but almost the top where the snow shed is. So it's a constant grade going up, but there was enough room here to add a branch, and we'll talk about that. But just another overview shot of the layout.
It is amazing.
And this is an example of a 36-inch aisle. This is a coal mine, and this is an area that doesn't get a lot of foot traffic. Again, when you load your coal train, you're standing right here, kind of out of the way because we've got some inside corners here, so there's plenty of room here to pass behind. But this is 58 inches off the raised floor. This is 16-inch raised floor right here, and then the track height here is 58 inches. This is the Black Butte mine.
That's a pretty cool place.
Yeah, so you got three trains in here waiting to get loaded, and you got one loaded departing right here. So
I'm sorry. There's someone that just posted a comment. Jason Clock says we need to rename the show for this episode the Second Mortgage Podcast.
Yeah, no doubt.
This is
the second and third mortgage. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, I'm sorry. When I read it, I burst out laughing. I'm sorry, John.
That's good. I like it. That's funny.
Are you going to discuss the mine operations a little later?
No, I'm not really talking about operations, but
okay.
What do you want to talk about? You want to talk about something, or?
Yeah. Do you want to explain what it entails, like briefly, when a train gets loaded?
Yeah. I have a picture of that, and I'll talk about it when I bring up the picture.
All right.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. And I know everybody likes to look at workbenches, so here's my shop.
That's insane.
Yeah.
What's on your workbench? It's got a sink built in.
Yeah, you got to have a sink on the right hand. You can't see it, but there's my. I built a very large airbrush station.
Yeah, spray booth.
Vented spray booth. Yeah.
That would never win. That would never win, Andy. Look at all the empty space.
Well,
look at all the empty space.
So we don't know. This might be staged, right? If we see it in the wild sometime, maybe there's a paper mill on it and some box cars and
all right. I'll give you that.
Let's not.
All right.
That's true. Anyway, so I threw that in there because I know everybody likes to see workbench shots or shop photos. So
yeah, that's cool.
Okay. So continuing with the design, let's talk about a herniated helix. This concept's been around for a while, and I really felt it was important to include that. I'm not a big fan of helixes, but only because it's hidden track. It's time that the operator doesn't see their train, and that's what bothers me about them. But I think they're a necessity when you have a multi-level layout. So I've used what's called the herniated helix, where the first level of the helix, which is right here, is not included in the stack. So if it's a 4-level helix, the first level is visible all around the layout, but then the additional 3 are hidden. So this picture kind of exemplifies that. So this is the lower level that goes all the way around that's visible, right? And then it goes inside, and that's just one less turn that the train is, visible to the operator. So this is a shot of 2 trains meeting at the entrance to the helix, but it's on a grade, and to the left, it's continuing grading downhill to that first level of the layout. So it's called one level is herniated.
Is the overpass the view, your view block then for the entrance to the rest of it, or?
Yes. Yeah. I don't have any tunnel portals. Yeah, no tunnel portals going into the helix. It's all. I've got one overpass. A couple different ways to disguise it. So
that's awesome.
Okay. Yeah, and then just to reiterate, you said 1.8% grade. Your helix.
My helixes are like 1.65. The ruling grade is that visible grade in the back. That's visible. Yeah. That's 1.7. So the ruling grade, the highest grade, is visible. That way, I don't have any problems. If I do, I can see it, as opposed to being stuck in a helix. Yeah.
1.6% pretty nice for. Yeah, if it's less than 2.
It's very wide. This shot up is not from my layout. It's the only photo I could find to help exemplify what the herniation is right there.
Yeah.
My helixes are pretty wide. They're 44, 46, 48 inch radius inside the helix. So that's how I'm keeping the grade down.
Now, are they circle, or are they also like an oblong herniated helix?
Yeah, they're all circular.
All circular.
Yeah.
Cool.
And there's an indication. There's track detection inside each loop, and there's an indicator outside on the fascia that shows movement of the train while it's inside the helix. So
that's a really good tip to do. Alan Schrader does that on his BNSF or BN Marias Pass layout. It's basically like watching an elevator, right? The lights go up to each level of the helix, and cool.
That's what I've done on each helix. Yeah,
cool.
Okay, so let's talk about creating that feeling of isolation for the operators. I'm a big believer in obstructions, curved aisles, and bench work, because that creates a perception of longer trains and length and distance, right? So if you don't see your entire train, you don't see the front and the end at the same time, you're creating a perception that it's longer than it is. And that was key to the design. So what I've done here is I've taken a few pictures walking up one of the aisleways. And so this is a raised floor section, the top of the mushroom on both the left and the right. And we're going to walk up this aisle. And this aisle, what we're seeing is about 6, maybe 7 feet long. But notice that you can't see what's around the left because of that mountain and the trees. And soon there'll be obstruction here, so you can't see it from this vantage point. But if I walk up this aisle and I go to the next curve, I can't see what's around the right, and I can't see what's behind me on either side. And this is another probably 8 feet. And if I take a right-hand turn at this corner up here to the end, this is another 8 foot. And this is where that paper mill is. It's on the right-hand side here. This is a mock-up of the paper mill. So now I'm at the end of the aisle. And so all of the aisles are designed, except for the yard is, all the aisles are designed to kind of twist and curve to kind of block the view so the operator can't see what's ahead or what's behind them. So if you're working up here at that paper mill on the right-hand side, you've got no idea what's coming in either direction. You could certainly turn around and see what's on the other side of the layout here, but 10 feet, 15 feet to the left, you don't know what's coming on either side. So that was a big part of the design, was curving these aisles to block the view and to create that feeling of isolation. You're by yourself. You can't hear what's on the other side of the aisle because there's backdrop and there's bench work, and the ceilings go to the roof, and the ceiling and the balances go to the ceiling. So you really are kind of by yourself back here, anywhere on the layout. So,
wow.
I love it when you can just isolate yourself. Like when you get on a big layout and you're just away from everybody. That's the best.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
So it's kind of like having a whole series of shadow boxes that you're just following along with and going like you're almost like in a museum going, oh, here's one. And I go down to the next one, and there's the next one, and each one is its own individual scene. It and nothing repeats, right? It's kind of,
yeah. But it's not like a modular layout where everybody owns a 6-foot module and the scenery is different. It all blends together.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Okay, let's talk about negative space between towns and scenes. I'm sorry?
I said yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
I'm invested.
So I used this concept initially when I started planning the layout in terms of where I wanted to place my industries, because I built the bench work for the industries and the towns and so forth. Over the years, I've heard it called negative space, dead space, open space, green space. I've heard it called everything, but really the intention is no industries, no work areas. It's just track and scenery only. And that really provides that feeling of distance and that you're going somewhere, right? Especially if you can't see around the corner. Again, same concept. And terrain entirely not visible creates an illusion of a longer terrain. And all the negative space is opposite of where an operator would work. So if I've got a yard or an industry, and somebody might be working at, opposite where somebody might be walking behind you is all negative space. So people behind you are just passing, and you're not working back to back. You're not conflicting in any way. It's just traffic back and forth right behind you. Let me give you a few pictures of that. So here's on the left-hand side, this is Kimber Yard. This is a small yard, and operator works up here in that alcove, but this is a green space. There's a town called Sage. It's off to the left. And then we start up herniated helix. It goes up to this helix in the back. So again, just single track main, a road and crossing and a bridge, lots of scenery. And it just is meant to separate the town of Sage and what's up around the corner here, and to keep the train and the people moving on this side where people might be working on the left. So that's one example. Here's another example. This is on the other side of the main yard. This is where we have 48-inch aisles, but on this side, I've got people walking along with their trains. This is double track, high-speed mainline, so there's no standing around here. Operators are moving with their trains. And people on the left, out of view here, because the yard's here on the left, they're standing there working, right, in their defined operator space. People on the right are walking and moving. So again, more negative space, just single or double track main, Wyoming scenery, just 60-mile-an-hour, trains right through here. And here's what it looks like when you're trying to figure out where you're going. So this is certainly what my layout looks like. When we talk about wayfinding in the casinos, again, you're looking for signage, right? Where am I? Where am I going? And that's what we do here. So I tell them where they're at. I'm at control point Ardmore. I diagram the track, and I tell them what's west and what's east. So if I'm going to Black Butte Mine with a coal train, I know it's west. I'm on the right track, and I'm heading westbound, and it's that direction. So east is Kimber, Winston, and Fall River Yard. This also doubles as a control point. So the crews have to have a key once they get authority to hand operate the switch in CTC territory. They have to use a key to turn it to manual, and then they can actually push these buttons and move the turnouts. But it only works if you have a key and you have dispatcher authority. So I try to be consistent around the layout. Every control point, yard, industry has a panel just like this that tells you the name of where you're at and what's to your west and what's to the east, and a small diagram of the track.
John, I know this is something from a couple of slides ago. Could you go back to that section where you said like the fast running? What actually no, it's right here is good. Right here, the picture of the picture of the layout is awesome. Okay, so the question I have is, we've seen a lot of different scenery so far in these photos.
Right.
Are you using the helixes and the different sides of the like how are you using the helix in order to differentiate the different parts of the country that you're actually traveling through? Because like we saw what obviously is some kind of is mountains. We've seen like out in the Wyoming prairie already. We've seen what would obviously Midwestern type stuff. So are the helixes being used to separate those scenic details?
In some cases they are. So if you can see my mouse, this is Fall River Yard. So again, we talked about going from the Midwest, which is actually on this side of the layout, upper level. And I've got the Midwest type scenery through here, and I'm going up the helix. And when I get to the top of the helix, I'm going to the upper level, which end. Now we're getting up into mountainous type, Montana type scenery. And I'm still heading westbound, and I'm going back to the lower level. This is why this multi-level mushroom is hard to understand, but I'm going down the grade here. And then I'm getting into this Wyoming type scenery starting, and it kind of blends together, if you will. So not only do the helixes do it, but some of the locations and towns do. But when I go through here, we were at Ardmore. That's across from the yard where that control point was. We were showing the panel.
Yeah.
I go up a helix again, and I go to the coal mine, which is upper level, because we're up towards Wyoming, right? Coal. There's also some coal in eastern Washington. In fact, this used to be called Black Diamond Mine, which was actually in eastern Washington. Then we continue through, and we're going into staging in this switching area. So to answer your question, sometimes I use the helix to divide the scenery. Sometimes it's natural. Sometimes it's done with the big areas like a small yard or a big Fall River yard. A little of both. And that's what I enjoy about the freelance is, you don't see the transition as the operator. It just kind of happens.
I suppose because you're so focused on what you're doing with your train that you're not really paying attention to the scenery necessarily around you, right?
Right. Okay, so here's a layout diagram, and this is a real eye chart. This is on my webpage. In the version on my webpage, if you want to go look at it, you can actually zoom in on the image and see a lot of the detail, track, industries, everything. So, but this is just an overall shot to help you understand what the footprint of the basement looks like. So I talked about a 65 or 64 foot square, 64 by 64 by 63 or something like that. That's what this is. So I got a long wall here on the left, long wall in the back. This wall goes all the way up to this corner and over. This is the garage. So there's a cutout for the garage. But this whole area in here is just a little over 3,000 square feet.
Wow.
Crew lounge, dispatcher's offices in here, shop, and it got some storage and utilities right here.
Dang. I just put your link to your website in the chat there, so people can go and take a look at it at their leisure. But yeah,
sure. So I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of what the footprint looked like.
Wow.
And this happens all the time, especially with visitors that come in and never been here, they get turned around. Mike, do you remember that?
Yes, twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I was
You
in
got
one
lost?
part of the layout. Oh my God, Andy! It's twice. I had no idea where I was. The part where he said make it difficult to find an exit. Had something happened, I would have had no clue what direction to go in. I was totally turned around. It was amazing. It was really, you get so immersed in what you're looking at that you forget where you're at in the layout, and it's really neat. It was definitely a first experience for me when I'd never been to a layout that actually did that to your senses. It was really cool.
Wow.
And this cartoon just happened to show up. Somebody taped it to the fascia. I still don't know who did it, but I love this cartoon, so it's fantastic. So,
oh man.
Yeah, I wish I could thank somebody for it, but I don't know who did it, so it's okay. Traffic center. This is a real critical component of the design of the layout. This is staging, right? So this is
wow.
This is where everything is staged. It's called active staging because two people work back here and they operate it in real time. And this is how we transition to and from the layout. People love working back here. I thought I'd have a tough time filling these jobs, but people love working in the traffic center. So they assign the crews, they keep the schedule, they generate switch lists and manifests in real time. They have a screen of the CTC panel. This is just a duplicate screen of what's on the dispatcher's panel, so they can see what's happening and where crews might be. So they might become available quick if if somebody is ending their run. So they get to see real time what's happening on the CTC panel. It's the hub for the computer network. I have a small network set up in the layout, so I've got two computers back here in the traffic center. I've got a dispatcher's computer. I've got printers around the layout, so we can send paperwork to the yard or back to Kimber. GMRI Ops is run real time, so when a train needs to be run, they generate the paperwork, and then they give that paperwork to the crew. So it's all done real time. So this is probably one of the most critical jobs on the layout. It's you're managing the schedule, the people, the flow. So it's a pretty important job, and people love working back here.
You do need to be somewhat flexible to get down in there, though.
Yeah, right.
That little opening, that opening on the right where his cursor is, that little opening right there is what, maybe 3 foot high?
Well, that's where the loads are stored. It's a cabinet, but yeah, it's on the other side.
Yeah, it's on the other side. Yeah.
It's a tight fit in there. It's a nod, a duck under, and it was designed like that because what happens is that I don't want these guys getting out onto the layout, and I don't want people getting back here because they get in the way. These guys are very busy. Two people are just constantly busy. When people get back here and start talking and socializing, or we have a couple of people that like to get out and socialize with operators on the layout that work back here, and they miss things that are supposed to be happening. So it was designed like that to keep the operators in here. So there's a window. There's a window though, Mike.
I was gonna say,
yes, there is. There is.
And yeah. Are those tubes serve any purpose there on the left of that picture?
Yeah. So what happens is that when your train is ready, Mike, you'll get a crew call, or Andy, you'll get a crew call to say, "Hey, Andy or Mike, pick up your train at the Fall River Yard. It's a manifest," and they pass the paperwork through here to you. So they'll put it in this tube, and you'll pick up. We call this the clerk's office. You pick up your paperwork from the clerk, along with your engine assignment and everything you need to go out on your run. And then once you get your paperwork, you report to the crew change point or the yard, and you start your journey. So when you're done, then you hand the paperwork back to the traffic manager, one of these guys, through this tube. And that way he knows you're done with your run. He'll terminate the train. And if he's got another train for you, he'll call the crew lounge because he knows you're available. So we use these tubes. We use these tubes to pass paperwork. And some guys have been known to pass cookies and sodas through here to bribe the guys to get a good train. But
I need a train. Here's a Coke.
It's a switching job.
Has money ever changed hands?
Yeah, money, cookies, all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that is incredible.
Yeah.
We have a few questions coming in, John. Do you mind
Okay, sure.
if
Yep.
we take them? So, and this is, it kind of ties back to Ray and his podcast, but Andy Gerber asks, so how do you get qualified to work those jobs? It sounds like the real thing, only smaller. So, is this someone, if I come in off the street, can I do this job, or do I get a
Yes.
buddy?
Yeah, there's a couple things. If you want to take this job and you've never had it, I'll talk to you to say, hey, Andy, how do you feel? You think you might need some help? Do you want a pilot? Do you want somebody to work with you for a while to catch on? You might say, hey, no, I'm ready. I know all about this. I'll just do it. And that happens. We get some very experienced operators that are willing to step in, take this job, take a yard job. First time, hey, go ahead, try it. If that makes you feel comfortable, that's fine. If you want somebody to help you out for a while, that's fine. So we'll do whatever makes you feel comfortable.
Okay.
And over time, what happens is that you work this job, you'll get some skill. If it's your first time, I hope you work it a second time in a row so that you increase your skill level. 2 consecutive times is a good thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
More than 2 consecutive times isn't allowed, so that we provide an opportunity for somebody else to come here and take this job, or any job. So nobody can have the same job more than 2 consecutive times, because I want somebody else to step in and take that job and learn it, so that we have broad skills across the spectrum for all jobs.
Yeah, you level everybody up.
Exactly.
I love that idea, or that concept in operating. You know, because you really broaden your entire pool of operators is able to do pretty much anything on the layout then.
Exactly.
Wow. This is so cool. This is the first time I've ever heard of a layout having a traffic center.
Yeah.
And look at the size. I can attest that room is enormous. It is. That's no joke of a room either. It might just look like a narrow wall. Like it's not. There's plenty of room for a couple of guys to be down in there, and trains are coming in, they're going out. Oh man,
it looks like the guys are just having a good time too. I mean, I could see it being fun back there for a whole session.
Yeah. They love it. It is fun. So. Okay, so that's traffic center. So let's continue on at the traffic center and the design, for staging. So the 2 people that work back there are really kind of setting the stage for the layout. So we've heard about the layout as a stage, right? And we're setting the stage, and what happens backstage is part of the overall experience and so forth. So my intent with the design was so that crews never interact with staging. Right? They never take a train in or out of staging. You don't have to fight that or worry about it. And the way we work that is that we have these crew change points. We have 7 crew change points around the layout where operators report to work, right? To pick up their train. And this one is called Richland. And this is where all the trains depart and they arrive on the very west end of the railroad. So if you're arriving here, you'll take this track in the back. This is the arrival track that goes into staging. And this front track where the train is the departure track. So the 2 guys that work in staging that were back there brought this train up. They parked it here. And then they'll call you on the phone and say, hey, Andy, you've got the manifest train, Tacoma to Fall River Yard. It's at it's at crew change point Richland. And go pick it up. So Andy, you walk up to this crew change point. You've got your paperwork. Here's your train. You got your paperwork. When you're all set, you contact the dispatcher and you depart on CTC. So crew change points like this are all around the layout. Trains originate and terminate in yards and some industries. So it's all about the stage. This is the stage. And traffic center, traffic manager, we call them, traffic managers, are kind of setting the stage by bringing trains out to the layout and bringing trains in back into staging. So that's the whole concept with the crew change.
Pretty cool.
And design for my guests, of course, create a warm, friendly operating environment, provide a comfortable operating area, and carpet, um, room ventilation, HVAC, and returns. I've had to, initially when I built the layout, I thought I had enough HVAC and returns, and I had to add, and I took some away because I wanted to get consistent, airflow, consistent temperature, things like that. Load balancing for ops can be difficult. So when I have 20 people show up for an op session in the basement, it's like a church, right? Some churches will pre-cool because when you got people show up, it raises its temperature. So sometimes I have to do that based on what the weather is outside, whether it's winter or summer, but not very often. But I do have to balance that based on the number of people that are in the basement.
How many do you usually have at a session, John?
Usually about 20 is the average.
Oh, jeez, Louise.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like to ensure operator safety. I'm big on safety. We have a safety briefing before each session, given by one of the crew members. But we've got emergency lighting and everything you can imagine. I live in a rural area, so I'm on a rural power system. So we have backup lighting. We have lighting on the stairs, so you can see where the steps are. I'd hate for anybody to get hurt, so I've taken all the precautions. Lots of fire extinguishers around the layout, first aid kits, that type of thing. And to create a warm, friendly operating environment, a place to take a break. This is a shot of the crew lounge. And when you're not running a train, you can hang out in here. When you get a crew call, there's a phone in here, you get a crew call, then you report to work. But not too comfy. This is the late Paul Sullivan, who would love to operate here. Paul would always fall asleep between trains. He would come in here and crash. So somebody was always waking him up when they called for a crew call. So yeah, wow. Paul was a good guy. Paul was a fun guy. I miss him dearly. And I like to keep it organized and clean. I like to hide the mess, eliminate the distractions. There's no clutter, no construction materials. You never see what's under the layout. And I'm a firm believer that if you keep it clean and neat, your operators will respect and take care of your equipment and your layout. No question about this. This is really important. So if things are in order, I think that the operators will really respect it and take care of things. Yeah, I'm positive that's happened. Okay, a quick chart or two on design changes. There has been some changes into the design after construction. So, and I'm going to give you an example here. I have an area called the Great Plains Industrial Park that a couple of the guys just kept bugging me that, hey, we need a small shelf layout. There's a perfect spot. We're not, yeah, right. So after about a year of taking the ribbing on that, I kind of agreed to that, and I built this.
No.
So this upper level here was part of the original design, and this fascia went straight down to the floor. There was nothing on this lower level. So this was an afterthought. This is a small shelf layout. It's probably 18 inches, probably 20 inches on this side, but it's probably it's probably 14 linear feet, and it's an industrial park. It's fed from the staging area. There's a track that goes in the back here to staging. This is the track height there is 33 inches off the raised floor. It's a sit-down job.
Oh man!
And I had more fun and more pleasure sitting down, building this and operating it from a chair. I was shocked. And so people love working on this, sitting down. And this is very popular. This is called off the extra board, but it takes about 2 hours real time to switch this. It takes about half the session. So,
wow.
And this is scheduled on the schedule so that when the operator's switching up here, there's a local that goes up on this upper level. By the time he's gone, this job gets called towards the end of the session so that there's no interference.
So you don't have two guys working on top of each other constantly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, when this job gets called halfway through the session, there's usually nobody here at all, because the only job that goes up here at the upper level is a local. So once that local is done, this whole area is the operator's got this whole area to himself to sit down and switch.
Wow.
It's actually pretty cool. It's actually really cool, Andy.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea.
It's really cool.
So that was an afterthought. And the guys kept bugging me. All that unused space under this top level, the fascia came straight down. There was nothing under here. So yeah, you're right. Let's just put a small shelf in there, call it an industrial park, keep somebody busy for 2 hours switching, and it's been very well received.
Wow, I like that.
It's not that's not the BNSF either, isn't it? Is it? It's a separate railroad, if I remember right.
This is a business park. So they've got their own switcher right here. It's an old GP16, and what happens is the UP brings them cars on this interchange track in the back. So when they come to work, they get their switch list. They pull cars from the spots and they swap them out with the interchange cars, and they spot these cars from the interchange. So it's an old GP16. It's called the Great Plains Industrial Park, and there's information on my webpage about this job.
So we got a question, since we're just kind of tiptoeing into the operations. Trackside Mike says, "Hey, how long does an operating session run?"
It's 4 hours.
4 hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
We have a 3-to-1 fast clock. So I have fast clocks. You can see in this picture here, there's a fast clock in the lighting balance.
Oh.
So there are fast clocks all around the layout. So wherever you're standing on the layout, you can see a fast clock. So that was part of the design and construction of the lighting balance. Put them up high. Okay. And I've also had this nagging idea that I should have included something in the original plan, the original design, that I didn't. I wanted a longer branch line. I've got another branch line that's pretty short, and the local goes up there and switches, but I wanted something longer where it was a full-time job during the entire 4-hour session. And that's called the Crater Creek branch. And for years, I regretted not having included that in the original design. And that's what this lower level is along the back wall.
Oh.
And this is another sit-down job. And this is fed from the timber yard, which is small yard to the left on the main level. And this has got a lot of industry, a yard. I'm guessing this is probably 40 linear feet of shelf layout.
Wow.
So again, it's 18, 20 inches all the way around. There's an OSB plant on the far end. This is a Tamco plant on the left. You can't see it very well, but yard, sit down job and a little shelf. This is probably the number 1 or number 2 job that gets picked on the
really
crew selection. Yeah. You're off by yourself. You're on the main line. You work at your own pace. You got a couple switchers down there you can choose from, and so people love this job.
Oh man.
So yeah, it was a good afterthought.
So as we kind of talk through the different types of, I guess, jobs that you're coming up with here and that you've designed the layout for. So talking about a design question, we did get one other question here from Don Hanley. And he says, so how many cars on an average train? So train length, right?
Yeah, it depends on the train. So in real life, coal trains, for example, are really long, right? So my coal trains are 24, 28 cars with 3 motors. So, other trains, like I have a rail train or ballast train, those are shorter because on the prototype, they're shorter. So it's all relative to what you see on the prototype. So, but generally they're,
I don't know. Did I do that one?
I might have. I don't know. Let me.
We were doing so good with the techie stuff.
That's okay. It's all right.
My fault. Let me bring it back up. Am I sharing still or no?
No, I think that went away. So, yeah. it's all right. We were due for just kind of a jolt to get us back into the game here, but no. So I guess as we have a break in the action here, I do want to. We're gonna have a lightning round for questions here. So if I didn't get to one of your questions before in the presentation that John's got here, make sure you get them out there again. I am writing them down so we can do a little lightning round at the end here. And then just so that everyone's aware, I did post in the group or in the chat tonight, I did post the link to John's website. So make sure you check that out. There's tons of information about the layout on there. Here we're back.
Look at that. Look at that.
Man, I killed that dead air just like that. That was awesome.
Nicely done, dude.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Yeah.
Okay, can you there we go. Okay.
Yeah, we're styling now.
Okay, so anyway, so there were a lot of changes that happened after the design, and all of that stuff just kept gnawing at me, and so probably my biggest lesson from that is don't dwell on making changes. I can't emphasize this enough. Keep that momentum going. Avoid feelings of dissatisfaction and preventing your layout from becoming a lame duck. It's just going to gnaw at you. I wish I had done this. I wish I had done that. So I've really learned throughout the years that I'll give it a little bit of time when I get an idea, but there's a good chance that I'm going to make a change if it keeps dwelling on me, because I just don't want to have to live with that. So that's one of my big lessons learned on design changes.
You don't want the layout to turn into the Someday Central, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Some really good advice here.
You lose interest, you make no progress. It just kind of gathers dust, and we don't need that. So, okay, we're going on a lot of time here, so I'll go through operations kind of quick. Some of the highlights here.
Okay.
As you can tell by this slide, I'm into big industries. So I firmly believe in big industries with lots of spots as opposed to a single industry with a single spot. So especially with a modern layout, a large modern layout. So these are a couple of the larger industries on the layout that provide a lot of operating opportunity. So lots of spots. So the primary purpose is to have fun. We do that with about 20 people we talked about. I always try to hold a slot or two for visitors and guests. We talked about CTC. We try to be as authentic to the prototype as possible. We use forms A and B, bulletins, special instructions quite a bit. There's a lot of different jobs to help, to cater to individuals' specific interests. Some people like to just go over the main line. Some people like to work in the yard. Some people like to dispatch. So I've got a little bit of everything. We do have a seniority system. And we talked about all trains operating between crew change point, no interaction with staging. So that's kind of a summary of how we operate. Here's a just a list of the different jobs. Traffic manager and assistant, that's the two people I work in the traffic center, 4 jobs in the yard. Here's that Crater Creek branch line that's in the back, probably the number 1 or number 2. We have a public service coal shuttle that just runs between the coal mine and the power plant. During a 4-hour session, you'll probably get 2 runs back and forth over the layout. That's how large the layout is. So 4 hours on a coal train, you get over the layout twice. Kimber Yard crew, a couple of locals that work the entire 4-hour session, dedicated locals and extras. So that's kind of a summary of the jobs. We use JMRI Operations Pro in real time, meaning that traffic switch lists and manifests are generated in real time. The system is built to, because of the CTC program that we use, it knows where the trains are, and when the train leaves the town, it knows the cars have been worked, and it actually records that in JMRI and makes them available for another train. So that's how we kind of manage that. Just like the prototype, deliver a car and may be available in 4 hours for, if it's unloaded, for another, local to pick up or set out or whatever. So it knows that the train has been through the town and the work's been done, and it happens and operates, functions in real time. And here's what a switch list looks like. This is for one of the locals. It goes westbound out of the yard. It's called the Kimber Crawler. It's a local. Fights a lot of mainline traffic out there. And here's a schematic on, you pick up your train in Fall River Yard, you go down to Kimber, and you return to Fall River, and you work trailing points on the way out and the way back. So this is a 2-page manifest. This is the first page. I just took a screenshot to show you what it looks like. So you're going to pick up cars on the yard. I'm going to give you all these cars from track 5 in the yard. And here's your work and route. A little bit of instructions up here to help you in a hint. But really it just tells you what to do, but not how to do it. That's up to the operator to figure that out. And we have multiple printers around the layout because some of the locals start in different yards or industries. So the traffic manager will generate a train and send the printer to wherever that crew can pick it up around the layout.
I'm sorry. You said multiple printers?
Yeah.
Like you have like laser or inkjet printers stationed around the layout to print train orders.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, just like we do in real life though, Andy. It's like if you're a Manitowoc or like on Luke's train, he goes up to Powers and comes back. So up at Powers, he gets new paperwork up in Powers. There's a printer up there. They just print it off and boom, off you go, and you return back to Green Bay, right? Is that the same concept, John?
Yeah, it is. So for example, there's a local called called the Auburn Turn. It starts in Kimber, goes to Auburn, it comes back, but that's on the other side of the layout. So the crew just reports to Kimber. The traffic manager knows that the call time on that is 12 o'clock. So he's probably going to generate the work order or the switch list at 11, send it to the printer. So the yard guy at Kimber can start building the train. So when the crew shows up at noon, he's got it all ready to go. But there's a printer right at Kimber, so that the Kimber operator gets this and can build the train and can hand this to the crew when the train's ready to go. So it's very similar to what you just described, Mike. Yeah.
That is super cool.
Yeah, and there's one in the main yard, one in the Kimber yard, one in the traffic centers with 3 printers around the layout.
Wow.
And each local has this little schematic on the right so that they know. And I think there's 5 or 6 jobs that have this schematic so that they just know, where they're going, what they do. So.
And it's always you're always doing trailing point. You don't do any facing point switching on the locals at all. It's all trailing out and trailing back.
On most of the turns. Yeah, the turns do that because they go out and they turn and come back, so they can switch trailing point. There are a few circumstances where they do have to, do a facing point. Yeah, but majority of them are turns, so they do trailing points. It's more efficient, just like the prototype, right?
Oh, absolutely. The model of efficiency.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. We also use GMRI operations at the logistics park, which is the intermodal facility. So the traffic manager's got to, for example, we have a couple of trains that depart. We have a Z train and a stack train. So here's an example of a Z train manifest. So the person that works at the intermodal yard will get this, and they actually have to pull these containers and trailers for the Z train. They build the Z train in the intermodal tracks, and they pulled up to the departure track in the yard where the hostler puts power on, and then they call a crew for it. So what's in JMRI ops is just the containers and the trailers. We don't have any well cars in there. The operator has to try to figure out which well car to use based on the type of container, the trailer, that type of thing. So
yeah, baby, this is awesome.
Yeah, and there's rules. You can't stack 20-foot containers on top, and there's all kinds of. So there's a set of instructions for the operator that they've got to follow. So, and I put the numbers on the bottom so that you're not trying to read those These numbers right here. So that the operators turn the container and the trailers over just to look at the bottom. It's much easier to read the number here than it is right here.
So,
and these
so
numbers correlate to what's in the system here.
So you see that big stack of containers behind there, Andy?
Yeah, I do.
The operator has to go through that and find the container that needs to go in the car and keep the container stacks organized in such a manner so that he can't just go and throw them all over the place. They have to stay in a certain way. And so you have to cherry pick every container out of that thing and put them in the proper well cars.
Right.
And does that not sound like a fun job?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds incredible. Like, so I have a silly question. Like, just for fun, do you shuffle up all the containers and kind of get them out of whack? So,
no,
okay.
The containers are organized by 40 foot, 45 foot, 53 foot, 20s. So they're stacked. They're grouped by the type of container. But what happens is that you also get two trains that come in. So the operator here is also unloading two trains. So you're building a train and unloading. So you're working the same stack. So this Z train only takes 53s and trailers. So they're only working with one pile of 53-foot containers. The stack train is going to take the 40s and the 20s, right? So it just depends on how well the previous operator had stacked the containers in there. That's going to make your job much easier or much harder based on the job that the previous shift did. So
it's railroading Tetris.
Right.
It's awesome. Do you have to on the incoming stack trains and well trains, does the operator at the intermodal facility, do they have to stage chassis to offload?
No.
Like or is that just a scenic assumption? That's just an assumption that they're going someplace, right?
Right. So the chassis, the chassis either have containers on them or a trailer. So they're already pre-built. So you're not having to do anything with the chassis separately. No.
It's so cool.
But that's not a bad idea,
that
Mike.
Job so bad.
I might have to think about that, Mike. I don't know. It's a good idea. Guys are going to hate you for saying that.
Oh, man.
You get a bunch of those. Here's another great idea, John. Real quick, get a bunch of those remote control. Get some remote control little yard tractors, and they're hauling. You put the container on, and it goes to a separate staging facility that goes off layout and through behind a warehousey thing, and so you're operating. You have a guy just driving truck in and out of the intermodal facility, taking the containers in and out and in and out. See, it could. Oh, yeah. It's nice spending other people's money, isn't it?
It is.
We had a 21st position and make that a full-time job.
Yeah, there you go.
That'll drive somebody crazy.
In all honesty, Andy, when I first saw this spot, I was absolutely like dumbfounded. My first words is, I want this job.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if you remember that, John, but I'm like, I want this job. This sounds like the coolest job on the whole railroad, because because for the fact that you're doing something railroad related, but in reality, the train is actually the secondary part of the whole job. Loading the train is secondary to organizing and finding what you need to do and trying to do that in a manner. It's a aspect of railroading that is never modeled as a rule. I mean, everybody models, a lot of people model well trains and stack trains and intermodal trains, but the operations behind it are usually not modeled very much.
Yeah, I agree. It's a lot of fun. It's up there on top 5 jobs picked all the time. So, yeah. Okay. Winter weather. When we have snow on the day of a session, we run a 2-person plow train. So we actually have an operator that runs the rotary here. This thing turns and makes noise. You have to stop at the turnouts and clean out the switches, and that's one person job. The other job is the engineer. So these two guys got to work together. So it's only when it snows on the day of an operating session outside. So we have to run the plow train.
That's awesome.
When we have high fire danger in Colorado, we run the fire train. It's either it goes on a patrol. There have been times when we've had a battery-powered votive candle out there with simulating a fire. So we've had to call a fire train out on that. So that happens occasionally.
That's awesome.
Maintenance in the way. It's not uncommon to shut down a part of the double track main or a siding or something like that. Take a track out of service. Kind of give a little headache for the dispatcher. Usually when I do that, I only do it for maybe an hour or two out of the whole session. I don't want to bog the whole railroad down. So we'll do that. One of the guys that operates here is a engineer with the BNSF, and he wants to do Form Bs. We've actually got to call the foreman and get authority to go through the limits. So we're going to start doing that, I think.
Ooh.
That's cool.
Yeah, track geometry train. We run that occasionally. This is a high railer we run, probably once every 4 or 5 sessions. I did a YouTube video or a Facebook video on this, and it went viral. It's kind of neat, but it's a pretty fun job. You're not just running the car; you're actually doing work. I have a set of instructions, things that you're looking for when you're running this job. So you're checking signs. You're doing a lot of different things to inspect when you're actually running this job. You're not just running this around the layout. There's more to it than that. Coal loading. Here we go. We talked about this, Mike.
Yeah.
So when we do load trains, just like the prototype, we have to look at a camera that's mounted above before the train goes into load, and we're looking for trespassers. So I have a couple of O-scale figures that are occasionally in cars. Here's one laying back. And when he goes through the camera, you can see it. This is a screenshot of the camera. And there's a procedure you have to follow to notify the BNSF cops and start a whole process to get rid of this trespasser. So you have to check your train. Just like on the prototype, you got to check your train before you dump 100 tons of coal in there. That's kind of fun.
Do you have a picture of the cop car and that whole setup?
I don't have it. No, I don't.
Oh, I wish I would have gotten here. I wish I would have gotten. I have it on my phone. Okay, so it's awesome. So when you see a guy inside one of the cars, part of the procedure is you got to notify the BNSF, the railroad police, right? There's a button you hit on the thing, and there's a car, the BNSF police car sitting there, and the lights start going on. And I think doesn't the siren go? There's a siren that goes on.
Yeah, siren goes on for like 15 seconds, then it shuts off, but the lights stay on for like 5 minutes.
Mike, that would be something awesome to post to the second section Facebook group.
Yeah, I'll have to find that. I'll find it on my phone and I'll post it here after the show.
Yeah, that would be a really good one.
The whole scene up there is really well scenic. You feel like you're going through a flood loader. I mean, the whole thing. But that's just one of the fun things on his layout that he's done that is just, hey, you got to do this stuff. And not every train has a trespasser. So
right. Yeah, if you can't find that video, Mike, I'll shoot a video and post it.
Yeah.
So it's not a problem.
I'll look for it here quick.
That's awesome.
Let's see, that was April of last.
Also have 3 defect detectors on the layout. They're set for random hot box or shifted loads. It counts the axle real time. Temperature. If there's a procedure, if you have a hot box or a shifted load, you got to set it out. I use coal protection cars. So if you have to set out a coal car because of a bad order, you put a temporary car in there with a load so that we can deliver, per the contract to our customer. And the CTC panel also gets an alert when one of these detectors fires off the defect. So
holy cow.
Kind of fun. Yeah, they're pretty fun. Track scale, we have a mill here that you have to, this is an actual operating position. You have to run this track mobile. this is a job that guys either love or hate. But so you have to pull and you have to weigh and you have to record the weight. So it's kind of fun. It adds a little bit of time. Speedometers on the main line. This is that section double track main where it's 60 miles an hour. This says 59 on it. Luckily, because it's if you go over 60, you get a big audible alarm. During a session, if that thing goes off, everybody's giving you a hard time because you're exceeding the speed limit. So
slow down.
Yeah. So that's
my son would hate that.
Yeah, it drives everybody crazy, and you get a ration. So it's kind of fun, and it's all really about having fun. We've had a lot of different operators from all over the place attend operating sessions.
Is there anywhere Michelle Kempema hasn't been?
I know it. She's been everywhere.
Yeah.
A father and son team from Germany. They've been over twice, I think.
Wow.
That's cool.
I get guys flying out from Atlanta. People fly out quite a bit to operate. Some real characters came in from Kansas City and Tulsa.
Is that Dave Berman?
That looks like
Berman.
Dave.
That's Dave Berman. This is the Carlisle's Mike Tomei from Kansas City. Yeah. Dispatching is always popular. Dispatcher's office.
Huh.
And that's it.
Well done, sir.
Did you ever think any more about the hot box detector suggestion that I gave you when I was there?
Jeez, I don't remember that, Mike. I'm sorry.
Where I said where you had the timer for the railroad for the crew had a timer to report the hot box defect to the dispatcher, and if they didn't in a certain amount of time, the dispatcher got a hold of them.
No, that's a good idea. I'm taking notes.
I think it was something like they had to pull their train, or their train automatically came to a stop if they didn't report to the dispatcher in time. So their train came to a stop and they had to inspect their train. Something along those lines. It was.
That's a good idea. The dispatcher does know when the hot box detectors, because they get a flash on their screen at each hot box location, so they do know it's gone off, and they usually will call them on the radio. Hey, what's going on? Because the instructions are that the crew has to stop, inspect their train. But I'm going to do that. Make them call the dispatcher. Yeah, let them figure it out, because it really does impact the session, because you're shutting down the main line for a while.
Yeah. And in real life, that's what we have to do. If we get busted by the hotbox detector, you have a protocol that you have to stop that train. If it's a dragging equipment, you have to stop the train, and you have to physically walk the train. You cannot pull the train past you. If it's a hotbox, that you can pull. If my memory serves, you can pull that set of wheels up to you, do the inspection, and then you have to walk up. But if it's dragging equipment, they have to stop immediately and consistent with good train handling, mind you. Of course. And then they have to walk back, which, dragging equipment automatically takes more time, So
yeah. Well, I've got that noted, so probably see a change coming. You're gonna get in big trouble with all these operators, Mike.
That's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine.
So if anyone has any problems, John, make sure they direct all of their hate mail to Ray at aroundthelayoutpodcast@gmail.com.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where all our hate mail goes, is directly to Ray. Yes.
Yep. So I do have there's a handful of comments and questions that came in from the audience that I did want to talk about. So kind of piggybacking on the inviting people out to operate. Trackside Mike had a question. Just so how do you get to view the layout? Is it open to view? Like, what are your rules for that type of stuff?
Yeah. So if you're in the area, just shoot me an email, or you can get a hold of me through my webpage. I have a contact form in there. I'm certainly, if I'm home, if I'm not traveling, if I'm home, I'm certainly welcoming visitors anytime. I do that all the time. In the summertime, I probably have at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, visitors. If you think you want to operate, send me a note, and I'll get you on a list for guest operators, because I try to hold 1 or 2 slots and I rotate guests. And if you're traveling, I might be able to squeeze you into a session if we're having a session. So
that's so cool.
Yeah, the best is just to shoot me a note on my webpage on the contact form.
So I'm going to go ahead while we're talking about that. So John has a website here. Let me do the screen share here as I frantically try to do production while talking. So the BNSF Fall River Division, bnsfrr.net. And this is it's a great website to get information about the layout itself. But then, of course, there's the contact information at the end that you can get a hold of them.
Yep.
It's got some goodies in here too, links and references, some pretty cool stuff.
Hey, also as a side note, and I don't mean I remember John mentioned he's out in a rural area. That's no joke. It takes a little bit to get over to his place, and you're going down you're going to be going down some side roads and stuff like that. They're pretty decently done, but I believe one of them is still partially dirt, gravel. Is that what? Just that one off of the one that's off of where all those coal cars are stored, right?
Yes, yeah, that's a road that goes west from my house into Longmont. That's a gravel dirt road.
Yeah,
there's 2 paved roads. They're small 2-lane roads that are accessible, and I'm pretty close to I-25. So if you're coming off I-25, it's just 5 or 10 minutes from I-25 itself. So it's not too bad.
Are all those Wisconsin Public Service coal cars still sitting out in the middle of the Front Range like that?
Yeah, they are. There were 4 sets that went to the Great Western for storage, and I think that's the last set. There might be one more set they're in storage on the Great Western.
Yeah,
so that line is the old Great Western Railway. It's a sugar beet line that came into Longmont from up north. But yeah,
Andy, when I was on my way to John's house, I almost didn't make it to John's house because I stopped and I started taking pictures of all the hoppers, and it was just huge strings of. I'm like, these can't be the same WPSX cars that we see up here. Sure enough, they are. They're all Wisconsin Public Service. They're a mix of all sorts of them. There's and it's awesome. And then you get over to John's place, and he's the view from John's house alone is worth the drive. In all honesty, because you're not that far you're right in the middle of the Front Range, right?
Yeah, I'm surrounded by cornfields and prairie, but yeah, so I'm between I-25 and the Front Range mountains. So yeah, out in the middle of nowhere, basically. So it's a small subdivision, kind of by itself. So.
Yeah, the drive alone to get there is worth the drive. It's beautiful country up there.
So we have a couple more questions, John, if you're game.
Oh, yeah.
So David Winther asks, how frequently do trains enter and leave the traffic center?
Oh boy, that's a good question. So over a 4-hour period, there are probably I'm going to say 25 trains that come in and out average. So there's a lot of manifests that are built back there, sent out over the layout. There are a lot of through trains that start and stop. There's a transfer job that runs into the yard from the UP. I'd say there's a good 25, 30 trains in that 4-hour period. So
they're busy.
Not only are they coming in and out, but they're actually, some of them are being built from the pool of cars that are back there.
Sure.
They get a list of a manifest, and they have to find the car, build it on the track, put power on it, and then take it out to the layout. So
that sounds like a really busy and fun job. Steve from Train Waybills asks, with regards to operation, do your coal trains arrive with empties and fill up themselves, or and arrive, or do they drop the empties and pick up a full consist and head back, i.e., another job to fill the empties?
Yeah, so they arrive. They come from staging or the power plant empty, and then the operator actually puts a load in the car. Each car, he builds a train with loads after he checks for trespassers, of course. So he puts the loads in there, and then the train goes back to staging, or it goes to the power plant. And then the operators in staging actually also take loads in and out of the cars. So that's less work that I have to do as the host to restage the layout. One of their jobs is to take the loads out, put them in a box, and they're available for the next session. So the operators just load the coal. They don't actually take any loads out.
Okay. I think that answers that one. We got actually two that I'm going to combine into one question about maintenance on the railroad. So Kirsten Road, a Great Western Railway branch line, asks, how often do you perform maintenance, and have you ever had a catastrophic issue? And then Tom Klamoski asks a similar question, saying, what are the maintenance procedures on your layout?
I really don't have any formal maintenance procedures. Anytime any equipment comes off the layout, I clean the wheels and lube it. If it comes off, it's probably because there's a problem. I don't have any schedule for cleaning wheels, or I do clean track. I spend about 10 minutes cleaning track before each session. There's a couple of places on the layout that, for whatever reason, airflow people that I call hot spots that do accumulate a lot of crud, and I wipe those down. It takes about 10 minutes. The only catastrophic thing I've had happen is that one operator hit his emergency power off button on his throttle and shut the layout down for about 10 minutes. But that's about it. I've never had any disruption or anything catastrophic happen that I can recall anyway.
That's good. We'll touch wood on that. We'll touch wood on that to make sure that stays that way.
I don't know if you talked about what code are you using for is everything code 83, or is it a mix, or what is it?
It's all code 83. There's some code 70 track is scenery, that old industries, old track that has code 70, but that's not functional track. Everything's code 83. But there's really no maintenance. I think I've replaced one tortoise in 15 years. I had to spray some lubricant in another tortoise last year. I sprayed some lubricant in because I had one sticking.
Nothing major though.
No.
The layout's 16, 17 years old. So
yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Built with quality, I think, is the one of the themes from this evening. Right. Ken McCory's got a question. Says, do you have much competition from other local model railroads for crew?
No. I try to have my sessions the second Saturday of every month, so people kind of have an expectation when I'm going to operate.
There you go.
And I have a big list, and I send the invitation out, and I'd say 5% of the people probably can't make it for whatever reason. Then I just pick another 2 names or so out of another list, and I never have any problem. Okay. In fact, I have just the opposite. People ask me, how come I didn't get invited to this session? I know you had a session, and I have to explain to them I'm trying to rotate people to give everybody a equal chance to operate, spread it around a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I am upfront with everybody, and I tell people that we rotate, and you will not be invited to every session. So,
I think it's good to be upfront that way, so people kind of have that expectation going in. Otherwise, it's you get the Facebook message, "Thanks for the invite, bro," and
like, it happens a lot, especially with some of the younger guys. It's like they have an expectation they're going to get invited to every session because they've been to 1 or 2, and then it's there's a rotation.
Yeah.
So
Okay, I got a couple more questions here, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up because it is getting late, and we want to be respectful of John's time. So Fairport Logistics says, what software do you use for tracking experience for the operators?
Good question. I have a custom-built access database that keeps track of every job everybody's had over the years. And that's how we track seniority. And that's how we track. It also has a report function in there. I can track who's had a job 2 consecutive times, and I tell them they can't pick it. So if you work the intermodal yard the last 2 sessions, last 2 times you were here, you can't take it a third time. And so people can't choose that job. So it keeps track of what jobs they had, even how far they travel. Because if you drive 3 hours for a session, you're going to get a little bump in seniority, maybe 1/10 of a point, to help kind of compensate for that. So it does a lot of great things, but it was a custom built access database.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It kind of is the replacement of the guest sign-in book, right? You know, the old notebook in the corner, right? It's a good thing to do there.
Is there a time? Okay, here's where I'm scoring so many points. Okay, so has anybody said, well, Andy's working the intermodal job in one session, he shows up next time and everything. Well, I'll take the Kimber job, even though, and then all of a sudden the session after that, he's there, I'm going to take the intermodal job. Then after, I'll take the Kimber job. Anybody just go back and forth between 2 jobs, or is it actually track that also?
What happens is that there's a report I generate before each session, and a list in seniority order who's got the most seniority points. So if Andy's on top with 100 points and you've got 95 points, Mike, Andy's going to get to choose before you do.
Right.
So out of 20 operators, there's always, you just don't know where you're going to end up in that list or when you're going to pick a job. So somebody else might take that job before you get a chance to, and then you got to figure out another job that you want to take.
And I did hear by listening to your interview with Ray that cutting your grass and helping shovel the driveway and other menial tasks in and around the house, some arbitrary gardening, things of that, cleaning out your gutters. Those are all good ways of gaining extra seniority points.
Yeah, you can also lose seniority points by making suggestions like using, chassis, driving a remote control truck back and forth to the marshalling yard.
I'm in the hole already.
Well done, John.
Yeah.
See,
it works both ways,
Oh man, see, I can never win. I'll just sit at the front door and take tickets.
I'm going to go ahead.
In truth, though, operators that come out, they travel a long distance, typically guest operators get first choice. If you're going to make the effort to come out here, pay to come out, travel, you've never been here before, you want to experience, you're a guest in my house, you're going to get first choice for whatever job you want. And you'll get the option to work with somebody, do it by yourself, whatever makes you feel the most comfortable. So
just a note, I know we had some tongue-in-cheek comments there about Ray, but I did throw the episode where John is on around the layout, episode 145. I put that in the chat as well. I encourage all of you that are here tonight to go listen to that. If you really want to dive into the operations aspect of John's layout, it's a fantastic dive into the jobs and how the crews get set up, and it's a really good listen. That's for sure.
It's a really, really good show. It's a really good show. You did a great job with that show, John. It's very descriptive, and Ray does too. Ray does a really good job with the interview process as well. It's awesome. It's an awesome show.
John did a great job. So
and there's a lot on my webpage. You mentioned my webpage, Andy. There's a lot of documentation on my webpage under the operations tab. All the documentation, position descriptions are in there. There's a lot of great information. In fact, I encourage new operators to visit that page and learn about the layout, and learn about operating the layout. So that's why I built that page, was to provide a resource or a reference for operators to go and look.
Yeah.
So,
and I posted those pictures of the mine, coal mine that I have. I didn't have a video. I thought I had a video of the police car, but I didn't have a video, but I have a bunch of pictures that I posted those to our Facebook page.
Yeah. So I think we're gonna do one more question, and it's kind of maybe a cheeky question here, from Joe Bohannon. And he's asking, considering the layout is mostly freelance, why did you choose the BNSF and not create your own freelance railroad?
Primarily because I started modeling the BN probably 35, 40 years ago, and I stuck with the BN, the transition to the BNSF, and I just kind of stuck with it the whole time. So I've had a big investment in equipment, and the BNSF gave me a lot of good references and information that I could use.
Sure.
Didn't have to try to recreate anything, especially in terms of equipment, operating procedures, things like that. So it was easy to find reference material out there for that. So those are the two primary reasons, probably. Now I do have a couple of the industrial park is a total freelance. That lower level switching shelf layout, that's a total freelance. So there's some freelance that's being done, not BNSF. So
it's cool that you're incorporating that freelance element just a little bit. And it's, I don't know, I think you've done a great job. Just from what I've been able to see, and again, I've never actually cast eye on the layout, but you got me fooled. I mean, with the casino type mentality of, draw my eyes here and keep you over there, keep you engaged here and direct me around the layout, from the pictures that I saw, it looked like I was mainline somewhere on the BNSF. So you did a great job portraying that for sure. Mike, we're at that awkward point in the show. I got to ask you, what'd you think of this one?
I was looking forward to this show for a long time, and
me too.
I tell you what, it's really, this show is a little different for me because of the fact that I actually have first-hand interaction with the layout itself. And I tell you what, John, honestly, no blowing smoke here. You're an amazing host. You are, as a layout owner, you go above and beyond to make sure that the people that come to your layout feel comfortable. You are very open with any questions or answers to questions, no matter how dumb they are. That's for me. But I mean, it's in all seriousness, sometimes we talk about destination layouts from time to time.
Yeah.
This is a destination layout. If you are in the greater Denver area, and you have a spare day, and he's available, check it out. You will not regret it. You absolutely will not regret. You'll regret not doing it, knowing you were so close to it. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity, John, that you gave me to come into your lovely home and to see the amazing layout that you've built. And it's I hope to get back out there. I'm not coming out this year. I was going to. I've got a little bit of I've got grandbaby number 2 coming, so that kind of had to take a priority. but I'm definitely going to be coming back out next year for sure, and I hope to get out there and do some running and stuff like that, and be able to dive firsthand into how things really work on the Fall River Division. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Oh, it's been my pleasure, and you guys are welcome anytime. And anybody in the crew, if you're out here, just shoot me an email or send me a contact, and we'll get you in just to see the layout. I take a lot of pleasure in sharing the layout with people, and I get satisfaction from that. So you guys are welcome here anytime. So it's my pleasure.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for taking the time, John. With busy schedules and stuff like that, and we certainly do appreciate sharing your I guess the secrets of how you put together the BNSF Fall River Division. So thank you.
No, my pleasure.
So I think tonight what we'll do is we're gonna forego the weathering group build stuff tonight. We'll save that. We're gonna be coming back on the air March 1st. So we're gonna have the fellas from Prairie Shadows on the show with us. They're going to be talking about a lot of the new releases that they have. We're going to do a little brew with the crew, have some giveaways, have some fun, and then we're going to walk through the weathering build photos and talk about that with the crew from Prairie Shadows, and have a few extra guests on the show as well. It'll be a good night to get together and talk. So we'll be back March 1st. In the meanwhile, if you still want to continue to have fun, make sure you check us out on our Facebook group, Second Section Podcast. Just answer the 3 questions to get in. Away you go. And I think we've crested 1,700 people in the group now. And we got a lot of good modelers sharing tips and techniques and helping each other on the group build and all that sorts of good stuff. And just a great group of folks to hang out with and be a part of the community. So Mike, as we tie up for tonight, I just gotta say it's just been awesome.
It has. This one's one for the record books, that's for sure.
Yeah. So you're
gonna make me say it, aren't you? You're gonna make
what's
me say
that?
it. You know
the tagline?
You're gonna make me say it, aren't
I'm gonna make you say it, but I'm gonna do an awkward little deal here, and the awkward, on behalf of John, myself, everyone in section crew in the chat tonight. Mike?
Yes. What?
You gonna say it?
I'll say it. Just keep modeling.
I had a boy. Good night, everyone.
Good night.